Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 10 minutes. Please take a moment to find your seats. As an orientation to the space, emergency exits are located to your rear out the lobby doors. Restrooms are in the upper lobby, located to your left as you come up the stairs and marked with signs.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The ceremony will begin in 10 minutes. We ask that you please start beginning to take your seats. The ceremony will begin in 10 minutes.
trying to cue them to play the video, so I think we're going to be over time. If they don't play in another like 15, 20 seconds here, then yes, I'll let you know.
This is Army Futures Command.
AFC ensures the Army is implementing a comprehensive approach to modernization, one that will provide future soldiers with the advanced equipment and systems they need to dominate any adversary.
AFC is committed to engaging in groundbreaking Army modernization work
and integrates daily with entrepreneurs, scientists, and businesses to employ an entrepreneurial spirit of accepting the risk of failure early and cheaply to create the best solutions for our soldiers. This collaboration with industry and academia partners keeps soldiers safe and America strong and will help us deliver overmatch in future conflicts. AFC is the engine of Army modernization, developing Army concepts, future force design, and requirements for future material. Our modernization efforts focus on 6 modernization priorities: long-range precision fires, next-generation combat vehicles, future vertical lift, network, air and missile defense, and soldier lethality. We additionally support bold initiatives designed to transform the way the Army manages talent and empowers its workforce. AFC continually assesses the future operational environment, emerging threats, and technologies so that we have the right tools and plans in place to deter and defeat our strategic competitors. Many of the innovative technologies and systems we develop in coordination with our partners are put to the test through Project Convergence Framework. Project Convergence is an ongoing iterative campaign of learning and experimentation aimed at rapidly integrating new Army systems into the Joint Force. During Project Convergence events, AFC enlists a soldier-centered design process and the help of Army warfighters, the Joint Force, international allies, and our defense partners to experiment with speed, range, and decision dominance. The effort is enabling AFC and the Army to transform the way future warfighters will operate in fast-paced, high-tech, and multi-domain environments. AFC is also experimenting with how to employ cutting-edge talent on the future battlefield. Through initiatives such as the Army Software Factory and the Army Artificial Intelligence Integration Center, the command is equipping soldiers with state-of-the-art coding and cloud computing knowledge while simultaneously highlighting that people are the foundation of a data-centric Army. The U.S. continues to face evolving threats from multiple adversaries. To exert dominance on the high-tech and multi-domain battlefields of the future, we must remain perpetually ahead of the technological curve. The research and activities we are carrying out today at Army Futures Command are setting the stage for a more informed and agile tomorrow. Because tomorrow is worth protecting.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin in 2 minutes. At this time, we ask that you silence all electronic devices. Please refrain from moving forward of the reserved seating for the duration of the ceremony. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, family and friends, good morning, and welcome to the change of command ceremony for the United States Army Futures Command, where Lieutenant General James M. Richardson will relinquish command to General James E. Rainey, and the retirement ceremony in honor of Lieutenant General James M. Richardson. Today's host is the 40th Chief of Staff of the Army, General James C. McConville. The ceremony is streaming live. Whether you are attending virtually or in person, we are honored that you could join us. At this time, we would like to recognize our distinguished guests who are in attendance or watching virtually. Please hold your applause until the end. The Honorable Christine E. Wormuth, the 25th Secretary of the United States Army. The Honorable Ryan D. McCarthy, former Secretary of the Army. The Honorable Robert Speer, former Acting Secretary of the Army. Ambassador Josette Sheeran, former Undersecretary of State. The Honorable Doug Bush, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. General Laura Richardson, Commander, United States Southern Command. The Honorable Steve Adler, Mayor, City of Austin, Texas. General Dick Cody, U.S. Army retired, and Mrs. Cody. General Dan Allen, U.S. Army retired. General James Thurman, U.S. Army retired, and Mrs. Thurman. General Vince Brooks, U.S. Army retired, and Mrs. Brooks. General Mike Murray, U.S. Army retired, and First Commander of the United States Army Futures Command, and Mrs. Jane Murray. Command Sergeant Major Michael Crosby, U.S. Army retired, First Command Sergeant Major of U.S. Army Futures Command. Chancellor James B. Milliken, Chancellor, University of Texas System. Ms. Jean Shine, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army, Central Texas. Mr. Abdul Sibhani, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army, Capital Region. Ms. Jill Wyman, Deputy Regional Director, Office of Senator John Cornyn. And Ms. Destiny Vargas, Representative for Representative Michael McCall, Texas District 10. We are also honored to welcome all local dignitaries, general officers, senior executive service members, sergeants major, commanders, directors, veterans, Gold Star family members, and family and friends who have joined us to witness this historic ceremony. On 27 August 2018, Headquarters, Department of the Army held a small activation ceremony for Army Futures Command on the 19th floor of the University of Texas Systems Building in Austin, Texas. Since its inception, the command has grown to 26,000 personnel across 26 states and 11 countries. Army Futures Command consists of 15 direct reporting units. Futures and Concept Center, headquartered in Fort Eustis, Virginia. Combat Capabilities Development Command, headquartered in Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. The Medical Research and Development Command, headquartered in Fort Detrick, Maryland. The Research and Analysis Center, headquartered in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. 8 cross-functional teams headquartered across the United States. Artificial Intelligence and Integration Center, headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Army Applications Lab, headquartered in Austin, Texas. And the Army Software Factory, headquartered in Austin, Texas. The dedicated professionals of Army Futures Command shepherd Army persistent modernization, ensuring a continuous delivery of overmatch and competitive advantage. The music for today's ceremony is provided by the Legends Brass Quintet from the 1st Cavalry Division Band, Fort Hood, Texas, led by Sergeant Shannon Walsh Shargaloff. The earliest use of ruffles and flourishes can be traced to the time of England's Lord Marlborough, who used kettle drums to announce his arrival. English colonists brought the tradition to the colonies during the French and Indian War, when 2 ruffles and present arms were given for Virginia's royal governor. In 1776, the Continental Army authorized a fife and drum unit to give ruffles equal to the number of stars a general possesses. General McConville has deferred honors to Lieutenant General Richardson, so today, 3 ruffles and flourishes and the General's March will be played in honor of Lieutenant General Richardson, the Commanding General of the United States Army Futures Command. Ladies and gentlemen, the official party for today's ceremony consists of the presiding officer, General James C. McConville, the 40th Chief of Staff of the United States Army. Lieutenant General James M. Richardson, Acting Commanding General, United States Army Futures Command. And General James E. Rainey, Incoming Commanding General. Please rise for the presentation of colors by the 1st Cavalry Division Honor Guard under the direction of Staff Sergeant William Tiggs. And please remain standing for the arrival of the official party, the national anthem performed by Staff Sergeant Kiari Moon from the 1st Cavalry Division, and the invocation by Chaplain Steve Cantrell. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem performed by Staff Sergeant Kiari Moon.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Chaplain Steve Cantrell.
Let us pray. Almighty and eternal God, we boldly and confidently ask for your holy presence and special blessings as we gather today to mark this momentous change of command and retirement ceremony. Heavenly Father, we are thankful indeed for Lieutenant General Jim Richardson's leadership of Army Futures Command and his 40 years of exemplary service to the nation. Lord, bless his wife, General Laura Richardson, and bless their family and friends who have loved and supported him through the years. And now, as General Jim Rainey becomes the Army Futures Command new commanding general, bless him, Lord, his wife Tracy, and their family and friends. Grant to General Rainey the needed wisdom to take Army Futures Command to the next level. God bless this command as a whole as we move forward with a sense of unity. For it's in your holy name I pray. Let us say amen. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
It is a long-standing tradition in the Army, on the occasion of change of command, to recognize the other half of the Army team, in this case, the partners and families. Staff Sergeant Aaron Lawson from the Army Software Factory is presenting a bouquet of red roses to General Laura Richardson, wife of Lieutenant General James M. Richardson, in recognition of her contributions to the soldiers, civilians, and families of Army Futures Command. Staff Sergeant Lawson Staff Sergeant Lawson is also presenting a bouquet of flowers to his daughter, Ms. Lauren Richardson, and his granddaughter, Anna, and a coin to his father, Brigadier General Retired James Richardson. Red roses. Red roses are traditionally presented to the ladies of the outgoing command team to signify our appreciation for their loyal service and sorrow for their departure from the command. Captain Bobby Scalzo from the Army Futures Command Software Factory is presenting a bouquet of yellow roses to Mrs. Tracy Rainey, wife of General James Rainey. Yellow roses are traditionally presented to the ladies of the incoming command team to represent friendship and a warm welcome to the command. The change of command ceremony is rooted in history, dating back to the reign of King Frederick the Great of Prussia in the 18th century. During this period, organizational flags were developed with color arrangements and symbols unique to each particular organization. The very soul of a military unit is symbolized in the colors under which it fights. They are a record of past glories, stand guardian over its present destiny, and ensure inspiration for its future. Today, the colors serve as a binding symbol of continuity. Commanders and soldiers come and go, but the colors remain steadfast. The soldiers of the unit dedicate their loyalty and trust to the colors and their commander. When a change of command occurs, the flag is passed to the individual assuming command. Historically, this gesture was accomplished in front of the unit so that all could witness the new commander assuming their dutiful position. This symbolic tradition has survived throughout military history, and this morning is a key event in the legacy of the United States Army Futures Command. Central to this ceremony is the passing of the unit's colors. The colors are the commander's symbol of authority, representing their responsibilities to the organization. Wherever the commander is, there also are his or her colors. The custodian of the colors is the Command Sergeant Major, the senior enlisted soldier in the unit, and the principal advisor to the commander. At this time, Sergeant Major Etheridge, the G357 Sergeant Major, secures the colors of Army Futures Command. The passing of the colors symbolizes the transfer of authority from the outgoing commander to the incoming commander. The passing of the colors demonstrates to the soldiers of the unit that the old commander has passed the mantle of leadership to the new commander, and with this must also pass the loyalty of the soldiers to their new commander. The transition begins as Sergeant Major Etheridge passes the colors to Lieutenant General Richardson for the last time. Lieutenant General Richardson passes the colors to General McConville, signifying his relinquishment of command and completion of 10 months as the acting commander of Army Futures Command. General McConville passes the colors to General Rainey, charging him with the responsibility for Army Futures Command as its new commander. By authority of Army Regulation 600-20, paragraph 2-5 alpha, the undersigned assumes command of United States Army Futures Command, effective 4 October 2022. Signed, General James E. Rainey, commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Christine E. Wormuth, the 25th Secretary of the United States Army.
Good morning, everybody. It is terrific to see everyone, and I'm so delighted to be here with you. I was going to say it's wonderful to see all the faces of the distinguished guests who are here, but when you're up here, you actually can't see anyone. It's like pitch black out there. But I know from our terrific narrator today that we have just an extraordinary number of senior Army leaders, leaders from here in Texas and from academia who all have tremendous partnerships with Army Futures Command. So thank you so much for joining us on what is a very important day for the Army and for Army Futures Command. As all of you know, Futures Command plays an important role for us here in the Army. It looks ahead to the future battlefield, and through innovation and experimentation, the command develops new concepts and requirements so that our Army can prevail in 2030 and beyond. And leading a command as important as Army Futures Command really requires a gifted individual. And today is rather bittersweet because we are saying farewell to a very gifted leader in Lieutenant General Jim Richardson, but we are also welcoming someone who I know will be a terrific new commanding general here at Army Futures Command, now General Jim Rainey. I had the pleasure of getting to meet Lieutenant General Jim Richardson pretty early in my tenure as Secretary of the Army. coming down to Futures Command was one of my first trips. And to his credit, Jim was one of the first basically was the first person I met who could explain to me what we were trying to do in Project Convergence in a way that didn't take 3 paragraphs of jargon. And I knew then that we were in good hands with General Richardson. As many of you know, those of you who've worked with him and for him, he is a dynamic leader, and he is truly passionate about blazing the path ahead for the United States Army. He is someone who can take an idea and run with it, and he has really positioned the Army to be a leader amongst our sister services when it comes to JADC2 and bringing together, converging the domains of space, cyber, air, land, information, and effects. Bringing that all together, Jim has really been able to see how to do that. And I'm so proud of everything that he has accomplished during his tenure, and I'm especially proud that we are going to be heading in really just this month and next to our 3rd iteration of Project Convergence, our campaign of learning, not just with allies and partner liaisons this year, but with real participation from the UK and Australia. And this would not have been possible without Jim Richardson's leadership and the leadership of Lieutenant General Scott McKean. So thank you both for doing that. It's a really important step. As you all know, in September of 2018, General Richardson came here to Futures Command as the Deputy Commander, and then 10 months ago, he stepped into the role of Acting Commanding General. We told him it would just be a few months, but like a lot of things in the Army, a few months turned into 10 months, so it took a little bit longer, I think, than you, Jim, and the senior General Richardson expected. And I just want to thank you both for your willingness to go that extra mile for us in a really critical period. It has been very helpful and truly appreciated, but I know it didn't come without costs. General Richardson got here and saw the Futures Command grow from 20 people to 27,000 people in just a year and a half. He really drove the integration of the Army modernization enterprise, and he helped establish a defense and industry and academia ecosystem here in Austin. He's led the 8 cross-functional teams who are supporting our soldier-centered design and soldier touchpoints approach so that we can get new systems into the hands of soldiers quickly. And in FY23, we are going to be looking to get 24 new systems, either in prototypes or fielded, out into the hands of soldiers. So it has taken a lot to get us this far, and we still have a lot of work to do in the next year. And really, under his leadership here at Futures Command, Jim has helped the Army embark on what is the most significant transformation in 40 years. So it's a truly significant accomplishment. And Jim and General Laura Richardson, over their very long and distinguished careers as Army aviators and leaders, have made tremendous personal sacrifice on behalf of the nation and the Army. More often than not, they served on opposite sides of the world. I was just hearing about how Laura was in South Korea and Jim was somewhere else. You both, between you, have completed multiple combat tours and overseas assignments over the years, and yet you have still managed to raise a family and are now grandparents yourselves to the lovely Anna, who I can see right in the front row because she's so sparkly. So Jim and Laura, thank you very much. And to your daughter, Lauren, thank you to the 3 of you for all that you have given to the Army, given to the country, for all you've done to support each other as you've gone on this decades-long journey. Your work has been incredibly important, and it's deeply appreciated. And I also would be remiss if I didn't recognize Jim's father, retired Brigadier General James Richardson, who served in the South Carolina National Guard, but also reminded me that he is also a Marine. So, sir, it's lovely to see you here, and thank you for raising such a fine son. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'll note that a common theme as I was getting ready for this change of command is that both of the generals that we are recognizing here today have, I would say, somewhat formidable spouses. You all have heard a lot about Laura Richardson, and you'll be hearing more from her later in the ceremony. But I also want to recognize General Rainey's wife, Tracy, who is very formidable. She is an occupational therapist, and I will quote from her #1 fan, she is a really big deal. And I have seen that for myself on multiple occasions. Tracy has long been a leader in our Army's family readiness groups, and she has been characterized as being ruthless when it comes to advocating for our military spouses. Just one example, while the Rainey family was stationed in Georgia, she led an effort to enshrine in Georgia state law an act requiring Georgia to recognize the professional licenses of military spouses who were relocating from other states. And this is really important because with all of the moves that families do in the Army, for spouses who have professional licenses, being able to make those portable when they move makes it much easier for them to get employment and get right to work when they arrive. And so for the work that Tracy did there in Georgia, she actually has a law named after her. It is the Tracy Rainey Act. So that's pretty impressive. Thank you, Tracy, for your work to date, and I know you're looking forward to working here in Texas and taking advantage of the fact that Texas is supportive of that portability. And I also want to thank your daughters, Bailey and Jamie, for all of the support and sacrifice that they've made. I know also that you and Jim and your great dog Sherman are really going to be missed by your neighbors at Fort Myers. So Austin is gaining a terrific family, but you'll be missed back at HQDA. So I know I'm actually supposed to be talking about General Rainey, so let me say a few words about Jim. I've had the pleasure of working with General Rainey since I became Secretary of the Army about 1.5 years ago. He became our 357, and in that role at Army headquarters, he has really led transformation of the Army. With his Army inside the Army of very capable colonels, 1 and 2 stars, Jim has developed the Army campaign plan. He has harnessed the total Army analysis process to build the plan for the Army of 2030. He has represented the Army in the global force management process, and he's played a key role in everything from figuring out Army support at the southwest border, to describing the Army's role in the national defense strategy, to helping us figure out how to respond to the presidential drawdowns to get lethal assistance to Ukraine. So he has just had a very full plate and has done an excellent job. And I can say, having spent many quality hours with Jim back in DC, I know I can trust him to tackle the toughest problems with tremendous energy and to tell it to me straight. I respect his willingness to give me candid advice, and I know that I can count on him to do so. Jim is the right leader to build on the excellent work of General Mike Murray and Jim Richardson, and to take Futures Command into the next phase of both delivering the Army of 2030, as well as looking ahead to what we need in 2040. And I know that our colleagues in industry, in academia, and in the small business world will find Jim and his Futures Command team to be great partners. I also know that community leaders here in Austin and beyond will find Jim and Tracy to be engaged representatives of the U.S. Army here in Austin and around the great state of Texas. And a final word for the outgoing Jim Richardson. Thank you for your 40 years of dedicated service to our country and to our Army. Thank you for your leadership of Army Futures Command at a critical time. And it's well known, I think, for those who know them, that Jim and Laura have a healthy competition going in a variety of areas, especially on the golf course. And I'm hoping that you will both get a little more time for that, but I'm suspecting, Jim, that you may have a little extra time that may give you an edge on the green. So good luck to you both, and thank you for everything you've done.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 40th Chief of Staff of the Army, General James C. McConville.
Well, good morning, and the Secretary is absolutely right. When you stand up here, you can't see anybody, but those I can see, you're all looking good. It's great to have you here. We see the mayor here and all our distinguished guests, former Secretary McCarthy, I think Acting Secretary Spear, and I think Mike Murray, and I think I saw Vince Brooks over there, Dan Allen, a few other folks here. So thanks for joining us. I'm not going to go through the whole list because we got this great 1st Cavalry Color Guard and band sitting here, and you make us very proud. How about a hand for the 1st Cavalry Color Guard? A lot of us have served that division, and it's very special. And this is a special event because, many of you were here with the birth of Army's Futures Command. And what this command has accomplished in an extraordinary short time is just absolutely incredible. And the momentum for the Army transformation has been strong because you remained consistent and persistent in your drive for change, your innovative approaches, and your determination for getting these transformational concepts and weapon systems into the hands of our soldiers. And modernization is a team sport, and it requires unity of effort. And because of your teamwork, with you all and with ASALT, you've already delivered 14 signature systems from our 6 modernization priorities, and I know you're on track to deliver 24 of our systems in 23. No pressure, Jim. And as we know, modernization is not just about new equipment. It's also about developing concepts. And this last year, you published the first Army Modernization Intelligence Estimate. You developed the first Army Medical Modernization Strategy. And these concepts, they assess our capabilities against what we may face in the future and ensure that the Army is ready. And delivering weapon systems and developing warfighting concepts is really important. But what also is important is the campaign of learning and experimentation that you have done, and that has made a huge difference. You are ensuring that we'll never be outgunned, outranged, or overmatched. And as we know, the battlefield is becoming faster, it's becoming more lethal, and it's becoming more distributed. An overmatch will belong to the side that can make decisions faster. And AFC is leading our transformation efforts to provide the joint force with the speed, the range, and convergence of cutting-edge technologies to gain the decision dominance in overmatch we will need to win the next fight. You stood up Project Convergence and EDGE from scratch to test the boundaries of our systems in a multi-domain operations environment. As you all know, Project Convergence started in 2020 with just Army systems and command posts. It continued to evolve to include joint services in 2021, and this year it'll include our allies and partners. And Lieutenant General Jim Richardson was the right leader at the right time to serve as the Deputy Commander of AFC, and he has done an extraordinary job as the Acting Commander for the last 9 months, keeping the momentum going and driving our biggest transformation efforts into the hands of soldiers. And as we hand the colors to General Jim Rainey, I remain confident that this command will remain on track. Jim Rainey is a proven warfighter to the core. He's an expert in tactics and strategy, and he understands how the enterprise works, and he's an innovative leader who drives change, and quite frankly, he makes things happen. He's exactly the kind of leader we need here at AFC. And he has an incredible teammate with him, Tracy, and I know you're happy to be here, a wonderful Army spouse, a professional in her own right, who has championed many meaningful efforts that support our military family and spouses. And so, Jim and Tracy, we want to thank you for taking on this critical command at this time. I know you will continue to lead with distinction and deliver on our Army's transformation while continue to take care of our people. How about a hand for them? And I do want to say some words about Jim. You know, along with his change of command comes the retirement of a great Army leader. And I've known Jim Richardson since we served together in the Air Cavalry in 1983 at Fort Ord. And I can tell you, he's an expert warfighter. He's an outstanding Army aviator. He's an officer that's totally committed to the Army. And he's a longtime friend. And I know this is a big day for the Richardson family and the start of a new chapter. You know, we celebrate, you know, a remarkable Army team, Jim and Laura. Think about that, over 76 years of distinguished service between them. And I know there's many friends here that are here with them and families, and we really appreciate all the support that you've given them. So Jim, thank you for your service, for your commitment to our Army and our nation. You are leaving a great legacy back here. And I just want to thank you and Laura so much, and I want to wish you the best of luck and Godspeed on your next rendezvous and destiny and a well-deserved retirement. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Commanding General of Army Futures Command, General James E. Rainey.
Well, thank you all very much. Secretary Worma, thanks for being here and those kind words. Chief, Secretary McCarthy, Secretary Spear, distinguished guests, Honorable Bush, teammates, friends, and soon-to-be friends. Man, it's awesome. It's an awesome day to be here. I'd like to thank, I haven't met you yet, but all the protocol folks that I'm sure were working really hard on this great event, the band, Color Guard. One of the cool things, there's too many to name, but one of the cool things about getting back to Texas is I'm close to one of the two best divisions in the Army again, the 1st Cavalry Division. Let me start by thanking God. It's important to me. That's why we're all here. And my wife, Tracy, I love you. Thanks for signing up for Keep Going. One thing that'd ever get me to leave the Army would be if my family asked me to, and I don't take lightly the fact that you're keeping at it. Now, Texas is my family's natural habitat, and we currently live in D.C., so I didn't burn a whole lot of credit on this PCS move. So I don't want to, overstate it. Hey, for everybody, especially the AFC team, I am honored and humbled to join this great team. I've been around, I say 4 years. I've been around AFC for 5 years because Major General Richardson and Major General Rainey were hooking and jabbing and whiteboarding, and usually the last two people to stagger out of the Pentagon 5 years ago when we were standing up AFC. And I've had the privilege of watching it. I was direct support to General Murray for a big part of my time out at CAC, and it is just an awesome team. Just to be real clear on where I stand, I think AFC was a bold idea that is absolutely critical to the success of our Army and the defense of our nation, and is absolutely what we should be doing, and I'm glad to join the team. We have very clear guidance from our Secretary, very clear guidance from my Chief. I'll tell you what he said to me when he was passing the flag there, but everybody could probably guess. It had a bunch of numbers in it. We have incredibly talented people on the AFC team, exceptionally talented. And we've got great teammates. We've got great teammates that want nothing more than to see us succeed in Congress and industry and academia, on our Secretariat, on the great Army staff. And we will absolutely deliver the Army of 2030 while we're designing the Army of 2040. I'm 100% confident of that, and then I will do my small part of that. I learned how to lead on the battlefield, and I learned from folks like Mike Murray, Vince Brooks, watching Dan Allen, fighting with General McConville. So I think I've learned from the best. And one thing I took away from that, maybe the thing, is that relationships between commanders are what matter, way more than command relationships. Relationships between commanders. And I've also had the privilege of banging around the industrial part, the institutional part of the Army a little bit, especially lately. And I absolutely believe that who has what authorities and roles, that's important, that matters. But what's way more important is who has the best ideas and who can work together to get things done. So I'd ask everybody to come with me on that journey. I meant it. I feel honored and absolutely humbled to be here. But I think the two emotions I would use to wrap this up are that I'm excited and I'm confident that all of us together, a team, are going to make a huge, huge difference for our Army, the Joint Force, and our great country. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's change of command. Please remain at your seats and enjoy the music from the 1st Cavalry Division Band Brass Quintet as we transition to the retirement ceremony in honor of Lieutenant General James M. Richardson. Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin momentarily. Please take a moment to silence all electronic devices. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are privileged to recognize and celebrate Lieutenant General James M. Richardson's 40 years of loyal and faithful service to the United States Army and our great nation. Today's host and presiding officer is the 40th Chief of Staff of the Army, General James C. McConville. The ceremony is streaming live. Whether you are attending virtually or in person, we are honored that you could join us. Please join us in welcoming the Commander, United States Southern Command, General Laura Richardson.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today's ceremony to celebrate Jim's 40 years of service to this nation. We have the leadership of our United States Army, the Honorable Christine Wormuth, Secretary of the Army, General James C. McConville, Chief of Staff of the Army, many distinguished guests, and we have many, many friends and family of the Army Futures Command and the Richardsons to share in this special day. At this one-of-a-kind command in the Department of Defense, and at the beautiful and historic Lyndon Baines Johnson Presidential Library. It's very fitting these two important ceremonies are in this famous President's Library, whose legacy is rooted in change and achievement at the highest level. President Johnson had many quotes, but one that resonates today, as it did in the 1960s. Yesterday is not ours to recover, but tomorrow is ours to win or lose. I would like to thank the entire Army Futures Command for the tremendously hard work that went into putting these two stunning and beautifully choreographed ceremonies together. Your special touches and intricate details you took the time to make are so very evident. And Jim and I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Let's give the entire AFC team a big round of applause. Madam Secretary in Chief, thank you so much for your heartfelt remarks. I also want to thank you for extending Jim's retirement a couple of times and keeping him longer than expected, because I have been dreading the day that he sends me photos from the golf course when I'm at work. We have so many distinguished guests with us, and we're so grateful that each and every one of you is here. Jim and I have worked for you and with you, and we thank you for attending. Mayor of Austin, Steve Adler, former Secretary Ryan McCarthy, former Acting Secretary Bob Speer, Ambassador Sheerhan, Mr. Doug Bush from ASALT, their Assistant Secretary, and Generals retired Dick Cody, Dan Allen, James Thurman, Vince Brooks, Mike Murray, and Jane, also thank you for being here. Miss Jean Shine, our CASA from Central Texas, Abdul Subhani CASA from Capital Region, Texas, Destiny Vargas from Rep. Michael McCall's office, and Jill Wyman from Senator Cornyn's office. Thank you very, very much for being here and taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend and be part of this. As we know in our Army, our families are our strength, and none of us would have achieved half of what we've done and be where we are today without the love and support of our families, and especially Jim and me. And so I'd like to recognize our wonderful daughter, Lauren, who is here with our amazing granddaughter, Anna, who is a kindergartner now. Jim's father, Brigadier General retired James Richardson. Jim's mom, June, who's with us in spirit. She passed away earlier this year, and we all know that she's here with us, smiling with satisfaction on her son's 40 years of service to this great nation. And I can hear her saying, "We're so proud of you, Jimmy." Jim's sister Julie and her husband Mark, our niece Hartley and her husband Kevin. My parents are watching virtually, Dr. Jan and Sue Strickland from Denver, as well as my sister Elaine and my brother Darwin. My sister Janice is here today, and both Janice and her husband David are former Army doctors. We owe a lot to Janice, and we are very thankful for all that she does for us and the reason why we are still very healthy. So thank you, Janice. We have some amazing friends over 4 decades who have come a long way to the ceremony, and just by you being here means the world to Jim and myself. Major General retired Dr. Tom Thomas, Corey Wagner, Brigadier General retired Ricky Reif, CW4 Mike and Michelle Mahan, Dr. Vicki Dixon, Colonel retired Dave Kramer, Chris and Colin Thomason, Colonel retired Al Patterson, CW5 retired Wayne Price, and CW5 retired Al J. Rock. Jim and I are alive today because of those 2 CW5s, Wayne Price and Al J. Rock. Well, I'm certainly honored to speak at Jim's retirement ceremony. Jim and I have been a package deal in the Army for 35 years, navigating how we are going to be stationed together, planning months ahead for our next PCS move and our assignment, planning Lauren's child care arrangements for a dual military family. There were many times as we were coming up through the ranks that our bosses or others would tell us, you know, one of you is going to have to get out. You both can't stay in the Army. It just doesn't work that way. But we just kind of shrugged it off and we just kept going. Our careers and life in the Army was a lot of work to make both ends meet, but it was doable. And the Army has been good to the Richardsons, and we are very grateful for both of us having been able to serve. There are many, many people who helped both Jim and I along the way, and many are in this room today. They are also watching virtually because we clearly have not done this alone. As you can imagine, this ceremony is very personal to me because I see not only a great soldier retiring, but my battle buddy through life. Is starting a new chapter of his life. It is a day we knew was coming, we just didn't know exactly when. And now 40 years, 6 months, and 5 days later, we will celebrate Jim's incredible career. Jim is a very humble person because he learned early on, having been on many different sports teams growing up, that it's all about the team. Jim commissioned in the Army in 1982 through ROTC at the University of South Carolina. He commissioned into the Armor Branch and headed to Fort Knox, Kentucky for the Armor Basic Course, then to Fort Rucker for flight school. His first assignment was to Fort Ord, California, and his first unit in the Army was a platoon in B Troop 210 Cav, which he took over from First Lieutenant James McConville. Needless to say, this is how Jim's career began, and he has moved 37 times since then. And you know you've been in the Army a long time when your officer record brief starts 10 years after you've been in the Army and it has a continuation page. As I said earlier, the Army has been good to the Richardsons, and as a result, Jim has served all over the world, multiple times, in multiple places, and as a dual military family, we have been stationed together for most of our careers. Jim has served as an instructor at the Army Aviation Schoolhouse at Fort Rucker. We both served in South Korea for almost 4 years, where our daughter Lauren was born. We served at Fort Hood 3 times, Fort Campbell 3 times. Jim served at Huntsville once, the Pentagon 3 times, and Austin once. Jim has 7 years and 9 months deployed to combat, 4 deployments to Afghanistan and 2 deployments to Iraq. When I met Jim at Fort Rucker, Alabama in 1986, he was just Jim to me. He was not yet Big Jim, a nickname he earned as a battalion commander, and many friends since then referred to Jim with varying degrees of deference. I knew Jim was a dedicated soldier. It was in his blood. He was inspired by his parents, James and June. James Sr. was a Marine, as we talked about before, for 4 years, then smartly joined the Army. James retired as a brigadier general in the South Carolina National Guard, and James and June instilled in Jim the drive, discipline, and devotion that has made him the leader that he is today. When Jim started in the Army, we were in a bipolar world, focused on large-scale war with the Soviet Union. Over 80% of the households still had rotary phones, as we did in the Department of Defense. There were no smartphones or GPSs, and we didn't have email or text. The map, compass, and the whiz wheel for aviators were our primary tools for navigation. And believe it or not, payday activities meant you were actually physically handed your pay for the month. Today, the Soviet Union has dissolved. We face an extremely aggressive China, a revanchist Russia, and the continued threat of violent extremism and transnational criminal organizations. While each of Jim's 6 combat tours has its own special memories, the first combat deployment is etched forever in both of our memories for many reasons. And if you know about these foundational experiences, it will peel back a couple layers of Jim's layers into how he really thinks and operates. He was an Apache battalion commander when 9/11 happened. We were stationed at Fort Campbell in the 101st Airborne Division, and I was the division deputy G3 at the time. A couple of months after 9/11, the division deployed the 3rd Brigade Combat Team, along with 1 company of 8 Apaches from Jim's battalion to Kandahar, Afghanistan, and they fell under the 10th Mountain Division. I remember vividly on the 2nd of March, 2002, there was a big mission called Anaconda in the Shawikat Valley that was beginning, and the company of Apaches would be providing close combat attacks for the infantry. Jim went to the Division Ops Center on Fort Campbell that night to listen in on the mission. And about 2 a.m., Jim came running back into the house, turned all the lights on, and said we're deploying the rest of the battalion to Afghanistan. The mission isn't going as planned. He packed his bags, and in 30 minutes, he was out the door. Jim was right. The rest of the afternoon, or the next afternoon, the rest of the Apache battalion was loaded on the C-17s. And 68 hours after Anaconda began, Jim's battalion landed in Kandahar, and 16 Apaches were flying to the Shawikat Valley in the mountains of Afghanistan. While the fierce resistance in the treacherous mountains wasn't fully anticipated, Anaconda ended successfully for the coalition forces, and most of those involved on the ground and in the air are alive to tell about it because of the warriors in Jim's battalion and the Apaches they flew that gave the advantage to win the day. Anaconda was the largest combat operation in Afghanistan of the war on terrorism that began after the attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Another scenario that's etched in our memories, that first tour in Afghanistan happened about 1 month later after the battalion completed a mission with the British SAS on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan near Khoust. Jim was in the lead Apache when his wingman aircraft made a mayday call and said they were going down. Jim turned his aircraft a hard right in time to see his wingman having crashed into the side of a mountain. Jim had the co-pilot of his aircraft move as close to the side of the mountain as he could. Then Jim opened up the canopy of the Apache and jumped out and onto the side of the mountain about 25 feet. The crashed aircraft was a mangled wreck, and Jim knew he had to get the pilots out before the enemy came and killed them or a post-crash fire killed them. Jim went to pull the first pilot out. His feet and legs were jammed under the cyclic and the pedals. Jim broke the cyclic in half, then had to break the pilot's ankle to get his feet out from under the pedals, and then pulled him out. Jim then got the backseater pilot out. Both had multiple compound fractures, broken backs, and were in severe pain. Jim was soaked with blood and fuel, armed with only a 9mm pistol now, because the Apache he jumped out of was out of gas and had to depart. The enemy was closing in on their location on the mountain. The enemy was fast, and they were good in the mountainous terrain. However, Team USA was on the way with a B-1 bomber and the other Apaches to neutralize the enemy, and Jim and the two pilots were extracted. As a result, these two pilots are alive today because of this soldier's actions that day. As I said earlier, Jim is a humble man, and he made sure on that deployment that all other deployments that followed, that bringing back everyone he deployed with was the #1 priority. But what's etched in Jim's memory from that deployment drives him to put reliable equipment into the hands of our soldiers. The Apache that went down in 2002 in the mountains of Afghanistan had a nose gearbox failure, and Jim vowed from that day forward that every soldier in the Army will have reliable equipment that doesn't fail when it's needed most. Jim and his battalion were in Afghanistan for 8 months and redeployed with just enough time to reset and deploy again for the initial assault into Iraq in March of 2003. I had assumed command of the 5th of the 101st Assault Battalion with 30 Black Hawk helicopters. Both our battalions deployed with the 101st Airborne Division, and our daughter Lauren stayed with our friends on Fort Campbell and finished 8th grade. Lauren then went to stay with my parents in Colorado and started her freshman year in high school at my alma mater. It was a long year that year, not knowing how long we were going to be in Iraq. And I know it was an even longer year for Lauren, watching the news as all the Scud missiles were being launched and the attack into Iraq began. Then at the tail end of that year, I think it was a long year for my parents, who were dealing with a young teenager named Lauren. Jim and I weren't the only ones from our family to deploy to Iraq. My sister Janice, who I introduced earlier, her husband David, both Army doctors, and my brother Darwin, an Army attorney, we were all over there together. Jim, your legacy is your ability to drive change in the Army, a large organization that's often resistant to change. As I said earlier, the Army was a lot different in 1982. We are now in a multipolar world, back to great power competition, and the U.S. has been focused on the war on terror. And we're in the need of innovative solutions fast to continue to provide overmatch and outcompete our adversaries in all domains. Under the direction of the Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, and the Vice Chief, Jim was reassigned to the Pentagon in 2016 after he changed command of the Army's Aviation and Missile Command. He reported in the Pentagon, was told to create and draft the changes the Army needed across the Army enterprise, to reverse course and fix what Senator McCain described in the Army's 2015 SASC posture hearing as almost 2 decades of more than 20 failed Army programs. Finding empty space in the basement of the Pentagon and the Army Ops Center, Jim proceeded to put that little Army team together of 15 to 20 personnel from across the Army Secretariat and the Army staff. A small but mighty team, and they crafted the changes the Army needed. This new direction created the pathway to integrate and synchronize modernization across the Army enterprise that resulted in the Army's 6 modernization priorities and 8 cross-functional teams. As a result, Army Futures Command is now the ecosystem that drives innovation and modernization for Team USA. And they work off the stopwatch, not the calendar. As already mentioned, Jim served in many units at every level of leadership for over his 40-year career, culminating in the task of commanding Army Futures Command. But Jim doesn't talk about the missions or his own accomplishments. He talks about the people. It's always about the men and women who he serves with that Jim is most proud. Here are some quotes provided without context in order to protect the innocent that Jim has said over the years. Are you trying to explain air assault to me? I invented air assault. I have more time sitting in the FARP than you have in the Army. I have been in the dental chair so much, I know how to cut a crown. Before Project Convergence, you were the expert. I am the expert now. In all seriousness, of those who have worked for you and those who you worked for and those who worked for you, there are 3 primary themes. First, you took care of them. Second, you got results. And third, you prepared. You took care of them in combat and later in AFC. You brought them onto the team and allowed them to learn. You invested time in explaining the why you needed something and not just the what you wanted. You got results because you constantly looked to improve both yourself and the organizations you were part of, and you delegated tasks to those better positioned to influence change. Third, you prepared people. People often see the results, but they don't see what occurred behind the scenes to achieve those results. Multiple hours reviewing documents and presentations with subject matter experts to ensure you understood the content, as well as 6 weeks in the dirt at Yuma Proving Ground in order to understand the opportunities and limitations of emerging technologies. Jim, you have been an example to many through your formal and informal leadership and mentorship. Your legacy is the people have seen you do the things, who have seen you do things the right way, and they will carry that forward. Every leader's goal is to leave a unit better positioned than they found it. You not only did that for every unit you served in, but for the entire Joint Force as well. I have no doubt the Army and the Joint Force will continue to benefit from the groundwork that you have established. You should be proud of your service. We are all proud of you. Service is a team sport, and Jim has been my teammate. And he has been a teammate, a coach, a teacher, and a mentor to many of you. And Jim, in addition to your accomplishments in duty and service, you're also an incredible son, husband, father to Lauren, and grandfather to Anna. Lauren, and of course Anna, thank you for being here today and for all the support through the years. You have seen firsthand the sacrifices of service and often drew the short straw. We can't thank you enough for your unconditional love. In closing, allow me to use a line Jim has used in the past when describing people that he admires. A quote from General Douglas MacArthur, who said, "No man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he be vigilant in its preservation." Jim, you have been vigilant for decades in preserving our freedoms. Thank you for your faithful service to our great country and to our family. I love you, and I am so proud of you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General James Richardson and General Laura Richardson will now join General McConville in the ceremony area. Although it is customary for the audience to stand during official awards presentations, We kindly ask that everyone remain seated, and please hold all applause until the end of the awards ceremony. Attention to orders. The President of the United States has awarded the Distinguished Service Medal to Lieutenant General James M. Richardson, United States Army, for exceptionally meritorious service to the government in duties of great responsibility over a 40-year career, culminating by leading the Army modernization enterprise to re-envision how the joint force will fight in the future. Lieutenant General Richardson established a foundation of discipline and care for soldiers, families, and civilians, while truly exemplifying what our Army expects from its leaders. His outstanding leadership, unparalleled dedication to duty, and commitment to the nation through times of change were steadfast and unwavering. His relentless pursuit of excellence and focused vision for the future significantly contributed to the effectiveness, readiness, and outstanding quality of the entire military force. Lieutenant General Richardson's achievement, selfless service, and distinguished performance of duty are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon him, the United States Army Futures Command, and the United States Army. Signed, Christine Wormuth, Secretary of the Army. Lieutenant General Richardson will now receive a certificate of appreciation signed by the President. It reads, "I extend my personal gratitude and a sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces helped protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country are in keeping with the long traditions of the finest military in the world and embodied the American ideal of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride and to keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., Commander-in-Chief." Lieutenant General Richardson is presented the Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. This is to certify that Lieutenant General James Richardson, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Army on the 31st day of October, 2022. Signed, General James C. McConville, United States Army Chief of Staff. In recognition of his retirement from active duty, Lieutenant General Richardson will now receive the flag of the United States of America, flown in his honor at the United States Capitol on the 8th of August, 2022, to commemorate this momentous occasion. We would be remiss if we did not also honor General Laura Richardson for her service and contributions alongside Lieutenant General James Richardson. In recognition of her years of faithful service to our nation, General Laura Richardson is presented with a Certificate of Appreciation from the United States Army. It reads, "You have earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation." Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. As a native of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Lieutenant General Richardson will receive a letter and a flag from the Governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster, in recognition of his service. The flag was flown over the state capitol in Columbia, South Carolina on 29 August 2022. Now, General McConville will be joined by the Honorable Steve Adler, Mayor of Austin, Texas. Mayor Adler will present honors from the state of Texas. In recognition of their service in the state of Texas while at Fort Hood and in Austin, Lieutenant General Richardson is awarded the title of Honorary Texan, and General Laura Richardson is commissioned a Yellow Rose of Texas. Know ye that James M. Richardson is hereby commissioned as an honorary Texan, and that Laura Richardson is hereby commissioned a Yellow Rose of Texas, under the laws of the state of Texas, with all rights, privileges, and emoluments appertaining to said office. In testimony thereof, I have signed my name and caused the seal of the state of Texas to be affixed at the city of Austin. Signed, Governor Greg Abbott. In recognition of his service, Mayor Adler presents a certificate from the state of Texas recognizing the retirement of Lieutenant General Richardson. To all whom these presents shall come, know ye that this certificate recognizes the retirement of Lieutenant General James M. Richardson. We salute you for your service to the United States of America. Signed, Governor Greg Abbott. General Laura Richardson will now be inducted as an admiral in the Texas Navy. To all whom these presents shall come, know ye that Laura J. Richardson is hereby commissioned an honorary admiral in the Texas Navy, with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto, and with the duty of assisting in the preservation of the history, boundaries, water resources, and defense of the state. Signed, Governor Greg Abbott. At this time, Mayor Adler will present the Richardsons with a key to the city of Austin in recognition of their profound impact on the city. Whereas Army Futures Command has become an indelible part of the Austin community, this key is presented in recognition of the Richardsons' long-standing service in and support of the Army's newest four-star command on this day, 4 October 2022. Thank you, Mayor Adler, for recognizing the citizenship and contributions of the Richardson family to the city of Austin, the state of Texas, and the United States Army. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in a round of applause for Lieutenant General James Richardson and General Laura Richardson. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Lieutenant General James M. Richardson, United States Army, retired.
Wow, the lights are bright up here. Madam Secretary, thank you so much for coming all the way from Washington this morning. It was an honor to have you here. And General McConville, thank you, sir, for hosting this ceremony today. We do go back a long way. Former Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, sir, thank you for being here today. It's an honor. And Honorable Spear, former Acting Secretary of the Army, is here as well as our congressional representatives. And Mayor Adler, thank you so much for coming up today. Getting the key to the city is pretty cool, so thank you very much. To our CASAs that are here, our Gold Star family members, our both active and retired general officers and SESs from around the world, our community partners, and many friends from the great state of Texas, and distinguished guests. Laura talked about it, but I want to repeat it. It's only fitting that we're here in the LBJ auditorium today because President Johnson was an audacious leader who took very calculated risk. In his defense of NASA after the tragedy of Apollo 1 resulted in a man orbit of the moon in Apollo 8. And by the end of his term, like Laura stated, LBJ once stated, yesterday is not ours to recover, but tomorrow is ours to win or lose. No one thinks about this more than the people of the Army modernization enterprise. And I express my sincere thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you all for attending the change of command and being here today to share my final day in uniform. The Army has officially advised me that for record purposes, I have served 40 years, 6 months, and 5 days in uniform. And I have loved every single day. I'd like to offer a special thanks to the men and women of Army Futures Command who've worked so hard to provide us this beautiful ceremony today. Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, General McConville, Laura, thank you very much for the kind words and your presence here today. Madam Secretary and General McConville, both of you have pledged yourself to keeping our Army strong and of the highest quality. I can't tell you how much that means to me and to each and every one of us in uniform. To know that we have that kind of support, that kind of dedication, and that kind of commitment from our senior leaders. On behalf of all members of the United States Army, I thank you for that pledge. And I can assure you, on behalf of every soldier and civilian, they will never let you down. I'm humbled and honored to have been given the opportunity to lead this fantastic organization. And as many of you already know, only a handful of people were responsible for standing up AFC, and 90% of those people are here today. And it was stood up under General Mike Murray's leadership just over 4 years ago. It was truly a merger and an acquisition all at the same time. And like the Secretary said, going from 15 people on the 15th floor to over 27,000 strong. What a feat. And Ronald Reagan once said, working on the cutting edge of technology has already made yesterday's impossibilities the commonplace realities of today. And Army Futures Command is making those impossibilities a reality. Because of the great work of the soldiers and civilians serving with us today, I thank you. I'd like to transition and welcome General Jim Rainey and his wife Tracy to the command. Jim has been a tremendous teammate. He has led our soldiers in combat and commanded the Rock of the Marne Division. He understands requirements from a warfighter's perspective. As the commander of the Combined Arms Center, he led the Army's Center of Excellence, integrating and synchronizing efforts across all elements of Dotland PF. Most recently, as the Army's G357, he was responsible for integrating and synchronizing the entire United States Army. I served alongside Jim in combat, and I know AFC is in the right hands as this organization moves forward. Laura and I wish you and Tracy all the very best in command. As many of you know, I begin a lot of my remarks with it's a great day to be in the United States Army, and I usually and always have a big grin on my face when I say it. That's because I'm proud that the soldiers and civilians contribute to each day to make our Army the best in the world and the most dominant fighting force in human history. That is why people are and always have been my top priority. As I reflect over 40 years of service, I'm humbled to have served alongside the best of our nation had to offer. The Army provides those people who serve a unified purpose. That unified purpose governed by our Constitution. That purpose is not about yourself. It's about the institution we serve. The Army teaches us to work together, to cooperate, to achieve a common objective. And that objective is to protect and defend our nation. Those who serve or who have served in the Army live by a core set of values and that are essential part of our profession. And I've always had the pleasure for over 40 years of watching our men and women of character reach their full potential. I've lost soldiers, as many of you have, and witnessed some of our best never return home from combat. I've always wanted to ensure my service was worthy of their sacrifice. As the sun sets on my career, the Army will continue to roll along, and I just ask the rest of you to keep the engine running and be the change agent our Army needs and our Army deserves. AFC was created to lead change and is the engine of modernization, and I know you will keep the engine running. And as Laura talked about, speaking of change, I entered the Army as a second lieutenant in 1982 with a head full of hair. Gas was 75 cents a gallon. Like rotary dial telephones, we had no computer. What's amazing, the day I entered the Army had 21 divisions and was 2.2 million strong on active duty, and we were focused on the Soviet Union. From a tech perspective, boy, have things changed over the last 40 years. It's not a stretch to say that the outcome of future war could turn on something Army Futures Command does or fails to do. If you're a part of AFC, military or civilian, the future is now, and I'm fiercely proud to have served at your side. For me, today is a day of memories and a day of thanks. And for the last several days, memories have been flooding in, some very vivid, some are vague. There are many people to thank and not enough time. However, I will mention a few, and I want to start off with our chief. I took my first platoon from him in 1983, and we all said back then he was going to be a general. And I've served alongside of him in combat, and there's no finer an officer in uniform today. I'd also like to thank Colonel Retired Al Patterson, General Allen and General Thurman, who are here today, General Cody and General Corelli, who couldn't be here today. All have been mentors to Laura and I. There has been a lot of coaching over the years. One could call it tough love. But I assure you, we would not be where we are today without their perspective on life in the military. Thank you all so much. And I would like to thank the soldiers and civilians I served with over the past 40 years, especially the non-commissioned officers who spoke truth to power, and to my warrant officers, especially Frank, who just since passed away, Dan, Wayne Price, and Al that are in the audience who are here today. They were mine and Laura's standardization instructor pilots in 6 deployments. First, don't ever listen to anything they say about those deployments. The one thing that I will confirm is that I would not be standing here today if it were not for those warrant officers. I'd also like to thank those that I work very closely with. Sergeant Major Hester couldn't be here today. Sergeant Major Lambert, Dave Kramer, my Brigade S3, Doug Gabriel, all four from the 101st sitting there. Pat Sullivan, Steve Wills, Krista, my XOs, my aides, Cam, Barrett, and Ty. They are the ones, for me, that kept the engine running. And I'm here today, really, I'm here today because of Army medicine. I'd like to thank Doc Thomas and the doctors and nurses of Walter Reed. I want to publicly thank Command Sergeant retired Vila, who was my Command Sergeant Major at AMCOM, who moved in my house and took care of me when I was taking chemo for 6 months. Think about it. All so I could stay in command. All right, here's the tough ones coming. I want to thank Laura's family, Dr. and Mrs. Strickland, Janice, David, Darwin, and Elaine. Growing up, I heard someone say that any good, responsible man or woman can be your father or your mother figure, even if you're not related to that person by blood, and I totally agree with that. Laura's parents and family have been there every step of the way for Laura and I, always being a sounding board when things were not going right. All of Laura's family are humble people. And I'm looking at you, Janice. And they humbled me 35 years ago on a run around the neighborhood and once at the CU track. That is a family secret, but the entire Strickland family knows that secret very well. So thank you so much for accepting me into your family, allowing your daughter to marry me. I am the most blessed son-in-law on the planet, period, bar none. I want to thank my dad, my sister, Julie, her husband, Mark, and her daughter, Hartley and Kevin, for attending today. You have taken care of Mom and Dad through some tough times, and for that I'll always be grateful. I'm looking forward to going to the trip back to Myrtle Beach with you, Julie. To my father, James, and my mother, June, who passed away in February, as your son, I feel like I grew up under two incredible role models who taught me always to be myself and to always push myself to learn more. For 40 years, both of you attended my Army promotions and changes commands. What I always remember about my two heroes is that you both always protected me. Both of you were my first line of defense when I was in trouble. And ladies and gentlemen, I know it's hard to believe, but I was in trouble a lot. My parents' love never wavered, not a single moment, despite all of my mistakes, and for that I'll be forever grateful. To my daughter Lauren and her daughter Anna, my granddaughter, Lauren is a proud Army brat and a wonderful daughter who now has her own family. Lauren had it tough growing up with two A-plus parents. She watched us both deploy numerous times as a teenager and went off to live with the grandparents when we deployed. Lauren, I look at you and see my past, present, and future. I see my little girl dressing up, covering her face with makeup, and running up and down the basketball court. No matter how old you are, you'll always be my baby girl. I'm so proud of you and love you very much. To my best friend, Laura, thank you for speaking at my retirement ceremony today. Everyone knows that you cannot have an awesome career without an awesome Army spouse, which explains Laura's incredible success. Told you I was speaking last. You've achieved the highest senior general officer grade in our Army, and I want to tell you how proud I am of you, and more importantly, how proud I am to have served along your side, not only as a soldier, but also as your spouse. Your persistent dedication to our nation has not gone unnoticed by our Army nor me. You did something no other person could ever do. That was to balance being a mother, a wife, and a soldier. And for that, I am truly amazed and grateful. Laura and I watched the movie Mulan numerous times together. There's one quote in the movie that epitomizes you, Laura. The girl became a soldier. The soldier became a leader. And the leader became a legend. We have grown older and wiser together, merged our paths together, and became stronger because of it. We read each other's minds. We know what the other one wants without asking. And sometimes we irritate each other a little bit. But once in a while, like today, I realize how lucky I am to share my life with the greatest woman I ever met. I love you, Laura. In closing, I want to thank the American people and the nation for the privilege of serving. I love this country with all my heart and with all my soul. It is a love without limit. It has indeed been an honor to serve my nation. I am proud to be an American, and I am so proud to have been an American soldier. Forge the future, air assault, Army strong.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the playing of the 101st Airborne Division Screaming Eagle song, the Army song, the retirement of the colors, and departure of the official party. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. Please take your seats as we describe your opportunity to congratulate all of our honorees. Lieutenant General Richardson and General Richardson will remain in the ceremony area. General Rainey and Mrs. Rainey will depart the ceremony area to enter the reception area located in the rear of the auditorium in the lower lobby. The congratulatory line for Lieutenant General Richardson will begin to your left toward the band after our guests in the front row offer their well wishes. Our ushers will assist in providing each row the opportunity to congratulate our honorees. If you would like to depart the ceremony area early, please exit after the front row has departed. This concludes the ceremony, and we thank you for your attendance. Forge the future.
Colors.
Good job, Vince. It was a pleasure. It wasn't flawless.
Just roll it, Bobby. Roll it? Yeah, let's see. Was it this way and then rolled? Okay. Like this. Okay. Very difficult to do this with